What's happening? This is Mansa Musa the Pharaoh. Uh, I want to just try to get straight into this. So basically, with the song "The Giant Steps," uh, there's supposedly a pattern that the main chorus, the main riff, is created off of. Now, I'm not no musical theorist. I don't know a lot of musical theory. To be quite honest, I don't even. I'm not even aware of a lot of chords. I just know about the open E chord because that's how I learned Voodoo Child. So, but at the same time, I've been in the music for a while. I can play the guitar. I can pretty much make any sound when dealing with beats, and I'm going to be getting back into that very soon. Putting a lot of more music showing that, and because of these things, like I'm able to be aware of a lot of things despite not being taught, despite not being in musical school. I'm able to be like aware of a lot of things, like and it's just for the sake of expansion. I'm not trying to boast or act like I'm better than anybody. I'm definitely not trying to create a argument. That's not the point of this. I'm point of this video is to kind of expand on something I noticed and let it turn into the next thing. That I believe that Coltrane, whether conscious of this or not, kind of invited with this song. So I'm stemming and connecting off the video of Earworm did a review on Giant Steps, calling it the most feared song of jazz. Uh, Now, before I get into this, I have respects of Coltrane, yet I'm not a huge Coltrane fan. I'm more of a Miles Davis fan, and I'm also more of a Pharoah Sanders, Sun Ra type of guy. I'm starting to get more interested in Coltrane though because of the awareness that I've learned about how he was going about the circle of the fifths. But I'm going to take the time now to just focus on something that I noticed, and I will be listening to more of his music. Um, well, main reason why I say this is so like this guy could have did this multiple times. I'm just saying like and also, if this has been talked about before, I'm not a musical theorist. So I don't know the proper terms to say certain things. Some of the things that I'm going to be saying, if they even exist yet. But basically, let me get straight to it. I don't want this to be a long video. He in that riff, like according to Earworm, no, basically that's what he did. He took. It's almost like he mapped the circle of fifths. So just in case anybody else like me likes jazz or likes music in general and just not aware of like a lot of musical theory, I actually learned about the circle of fifths from that video. There's 12 notes. For each note, think about it this way: it has a scale, and it's almost like there's just destined notes. I think it's either 5 notes or four plus that, so it makes five destined notes to go with that with that root note or key. Um, and when you're playing in a song, you're playing on key. If you wanted to have a specific type of tone that kind of is like is comfortable to the musical ear of anybody, or just comfortable to anybody, that as humans we just tend to have a thing to just know what sounds right, and get a lot of dramatics from music. Basically, when you are playing music, those will be the certain notes. So when you look up the circle of fifths, you'll see like the E, C, all these key notes that has like different other notes. That's also in the note spectrum. That's also in the 12. That's also in the 12 notes, basically accompanying it to make it sound pretty good. So when played together. So basically, I think the way he did is like he wrote the song where he would like start off with one key and then map, like he'll go into the other, make a chord dealing with the other notes that goes into that. And just to sum it up, like he'll start from one note and then go with the notes for his fifth, and then connect that note and let that be the connect one note as a result of that keynote into another note, basically a note that he ends off with, dealing with that key, that works with that key, will connect to another series of notes that is also in that also works with that specific note that he used. So basically, he's able to map across the circle of fifths because he would start on one side and connect this note connects to this one. He basically maps around the circle of fifths. That's how the riff started, and it's supposedly a thing where the pianist kind of got, you can hear it in the song. The pianist kind of got like caught up, um, and that's basically what I want to speak on because he was trying to keep up with both the tempo and trying to find the key. Now the thing is, like a pianist for that song is murder because a pianist is someone that keeps key, just like how a bassist keeps the low end and keeps the groove going, and a drummer keeps the rhythm and the tempo. A pianist is going to keep the key in check. When the key, when the piano switches key, generally the key of the bassist, generally the key of the song changes. So the pianist is like kind of in the middle spectrum of playing, and he's kind of like caught in a frenzy once it's time for his solo to start because he can't really improv on something that's not in a key or in a mode. Now, the reason why Coltrane was able to do it is just because, like, first I want to start by saying that's Coltrane, and actually not a. That's the thing that gets me about Coltrane. I'm not actually a fan of how he plays when he just keeps going and with arpeggios. I kind of like a level of attack. I kind of like the phrasings and stuff like that. But I'm gonna listen to more of him. But that's really what when I started trying to get into. I also like, but Giant Steps was always a good song. I always loved that song always because of the main riff and not even being aware of what's going on with it until I watched that video of Earworm. And my favorite things is another song I remember hearing by him that I liked really good. Um, but like when he solos, he just keeps going. So like he's kind of like ready to deal with that level of note bashing. But one thing I've noticed is that basically let me see what I put down. Just two things. One thing I noticed, like I said about Coltrane, he's like a genius on the saxophone, and he's like the Jimi Hendrix of the saxophone. He was able to kind of like do things and warp it and stuff. So basically, he became completely one with his instrument. You can hear it by the way he gonna just blast out arpeggios at like 240 BPM like it's nothing, you know. So the thing of this is like he was able to kind of transcend past the there's probably a musical term for this, but I'm gonna just say what is definition. Transcend past this is where the musical term will go. The threshold, the threshold of the instrument that kind of deals with it's kind of like imagine like the instrument is kind of like and captive of the idea of a key in the first place. So it's like he's able to take an instrument that is melodic and not percussion and turn it. He actually turned it into a a an instrument that was capable of doing it, creating a rhythm um through the notes. So he's still playing notes, yet he's created a rhythm through the notes. So he transcends the idea of a key. So if you're somebody that's if you're approaching that melody that he created, which he was doing that, and you are coming in with a key, you gotta constantly switch your key. Now, the interesting concept about this is that it's really kind of impossible to kind of try to catch a key. So the only best way, this is like pure like freestyle, freeform bebop when you think about it, because it's literally utilizing the idea. And also in the video they said that it's utilizing the jazz chords, but he approached it with that circle of fifths mapping theory. So it's like the epitome of a jazz song. So you got completely, you literally got to take whatever instrument you have and make it kind of rhythmically, make it kind of like this is the point I'm trying to say. Like basically, when we hear music, it kind of like goes well with us, right? Like because of the notes or whatever. But because this song is not putting emphasis on key, it's putting emphasis on the rhythm that the tonalities are creating together. That's kind of like and then this go here, and it's like kind of like flowing in a pattern. So it's not really in a key and like switching into another key. is going to one key to another, is going from one note to another, like I explained. And so it kind of just going smooth to the point that he actually created a type of motion in the melody of rhythm. He kind of he went from he transcended the concept of melody in terms of like you know what we think of melody, and he kind of turned it into a thing where it's like the melody is now shape shifting. Despite that, it's also an auditory illusion because despite that, it still kind of sounds like how it sounds like when you hear that song. That's probably why the pianist, which is once again a piano is something that really is heavy, like it's really put emphasis on key by the way the piano is made. He tries to get in and first of all he can't keep up with the BPM, but then he try to play something into it, and he basically like loses track because I mean I kind of got because like basically he's not able to you know turn that piano into like that wave of doing that. Okay, hold on, let me recapture my thoughts for a second. I kind of lost train. Right, so I'm gonna wrap this up too. I was talking about the auditory illusion. So he actually created an auditory illusion because it sounds like it's in a key, yet if you do hear the key and you try to come approach the key changes because it's just a type of specific rhythm of he's like it's just a type of specific though somebody's knocking on my door for a second. I'm coming upstairs and knocking on my door. It's just a specific rhythm of the tonality. So basically, you have a melody, which is notes, a road, like moving in a certain communication with each other, and it kind of gives a feeling. He basically created a melody that was like, inside the notes together, working with the notes was working together as one. It wasn't really kind of like, the notes wasn't really separate. They was chords that would go into another different type of chord that would flex into another chord before you could keep up and say these are different chords. So it kind of comes off as like one whole flow of a specific melody that's not in the key. So it's really kind of like a rhythm melody, or like basically my idea is that he took the melody, the idea of the melody, and instead of labeling a type of into musical term here, where you're basically saying like I guess it would be a mode, or instead of it being in a certain feeling, he basically took the notes and let them communicate together rapidly in one like in a series of chords, and that is of phrasing to make them. It's really hard to say this. It's like he took instead of it just being single notes connected together, he kind of approached the notes, which is what a chord is, but he approached the notes in patterns. So like instead of being a chord in one key and then it switches to another key, it connected the chords in patterns. So it's like one. He created like a picture or something. Like he created a pattern thing. And so when the pianists come in, it's like he realized that he tried to play a key, and then he realized that he was looking at like a almost like a black hole. Like he there's just too much stuff going on that he wouldn't notice that until he played it, because that's when he noticed that he was caught up in an auditory illusion. And that's the point I'm making. So on that same note, basically, um, the other thing that I want to talk about is um I believe that any instrument, and I was thinking about this and I realized that this is a great song to practice. Any instrument is capable of doing this where it's able to. I was also going to say that he basically went past this the musical threshold of that specific instrument to the point that he was able to actually inquire, because I don't think that it was really put emphasis on it in that song, and this is something I realized on my own. Inquire the concept of the tonality of a saxophone, where it's like what I'm trying to say is like you got the saxophone, right? And it's capable of expressing in a certain tonality and a specific its own rhythm that's different than another instrument that has a specific tonality, despite everything. Like a notes is based off of waveform, like a certain oscillation number, so anything could be at a certain note. So things still sound different though. So it's like he was able to approach the concept in the actual singularity in that. By doing that, with the sax, and it's almost like when the piano came in, that's another thing. The piano was kind of like out of whack with that. The piano, and also if the piano was able to properly improvise, even though I don't think the pianist did a bad job, he didn't do a bad job at all. He was just somebody that was like, some people said came off choppy, but he didn't do a bad job. It did kind of, but you could hear that he kind of caught up. So like the pianist would now come in and do the same exact thing with a piano that John did, but it would sound different because it's a different tonality. But this same concept would be applied in the piano in its own way. So it's like you get to get the uniqueness. Like now going back to what I said about how you have a instrument that's at a specific tonality and it plays past its melody because you map all specific different notes together in a type of rhythm. It now surpasses the concept of it's now just a rhythm and a melody. I'm trying to make this make sense, and maybe another day I'll make another video if somebody don't just get what I'm saying. But the thing is, I think that would be cool. Is like you could definitely do this with any instrument. Basically, any instrument could kind of like do this and almost kind of like surpass melody, and it just becomes a complete rhythm. Like the melody is like now. I think that's another thing I want to say is like the melody is now a complete amongst the whole circle. It's not like you just have a melody in a specific key. The melody is in all keys. Like he created a melody in all keys, obviously. But the thing is like it's like he was able to get to the epitome of melody by taking a chord and breaking it and connected it into a melody and applying it in all keys. Because when you hear notes together, one note at the other, it just doesn't really sound that different. It just sounds like it's a chromatic scale. It just sounds like you're going up. That's really all they're not really that different. It's when you separate them, through intervals and stuff like that, or whatever. So basically that's what he was able to create. So it's like, in theory, you could probably approach that with any melody. Who knows? And that's just what I want to record and talk about. All right, Mansa Musa the Pharaoh is out. Peace, Hudson.